In this episode of the How to Get on Reality TV podcast, we look at the age-old question, what's better, audition videos or open casting calls, and we help someone build their story, all in this episode. Welcome to the How to Get on Reality TV podcast with Dan Giesling, where I answer your reality TV casting questions once a week. Hey everyone, welcome to the next episode of the How to Get on Reality TV podcast. My name's Dan Giesling. And I'm excited to be here as always. Why? Because we have another great question. We tackle one of the most debated things in reality TV casting, that is open videos versus open casting calls. And we also help one of our listeners, or I'm going to help steer her in what I think is the right direction for her casting story. Before we get into that, I do want to remind you guys about the guide that I wrote, How to Get on Reality TV, the complete step-by-step guide. It takes you from A to Z exactly what you need to know, what you need to do, how to do it, what to expect. And basically, if you're in the dark, essentially what it does is it turns the lights on for you and guides you by the hand and puts you in a position to be successful. You can check that out by going to howtogetonrealitytv.net/guide. You can check out all the information there, how to download it, how to get access to it. Once again, that's howtogetonrealitytv.net/guide. And so that being said, let's go ahead and jump into this week's question, which revisits. You guys know the deal. You guys probably know what I'm going to say. However, there's a new interesting twist on it, and we're also going to help build the story. So I hope you guys enjoy this question from our audience listener.
Hey Dan, what's up? My name is Jamie. First off, I just want to say thank you so much for all your podcast and the book you wrote. It has helped me immensely build my confidence and help me build a story for my casting process. My question to you is the open call versus a video. I know it's been talked about often, but I'm at a crossroads. I feel like if I went to an open casting call, I would shine bright because I feed off off others around me. Whereas in a video, I'd be able to give them more information in the one go. But where my problem is, I feel like when I get in front of the camera, no matter how much I practice and try, I just seem so dull, or it doesn't look natural. So to give you a little bit about my background, I'm a biotechnology student and an ex-foster kid. I've also worked in retail for 14 years of my life, from retail clothing stores to serving to the medical industry. And I absolutely love earthquakes, and these are the solid foundation for my story. I just don't know which to go with. Do I go to the open casting call where I feel like I'd be the most confident and that I would feel like I would get further, or do I go with the video and just keep trying to better my story? I would really appreciate your input, Dan. I really hope to hear it on your show. Thank you so much. Bye.
Jamie, what's going on? First and foremost, thank you for the kind words, talking about the podcast and the guide. I'm glad it's helped build your confidence, because that's half the game. If you walk in, to your audition video or an open casting call or semifinals or finals, and you're confident, that's half the battle, because you're going into a situation where you probably shouldn't be confident because it's something you haven't done before and something that's fairly intimidating. So the most you can do to build up your confidence through information, through practice, through experience, the better off you're going to be. But that's not your question. Your question is, hey, Dan, open casting call. Okay, you said you're going to feel good about going open casting call because you feel like you shine bright and you feed off other people's energy. And you said, you're hesitant to do a video, or you've struggled doing the video because you feel that, let me quote you on this, you feel that you're dull and you don't look natural. So, for everyone that isn't familiar with my stance on open casting calls versus sending in or creating your own audition video, here's my stance. It comes down to one thing: control. You can walk in an open casting call, wait in the line for 5 hours, be thrown into a group, in front of a casting producer. Could be 3 people, could be 5 people. You have 2 minutes, here's your 30 seconds. Why should you be on the show? Okay, and all of a sudden it's like dance, circus, animal, dance. And if you don't dance to the right tune based on the mix of people that are there, you may get called out by someone there. People try to get crafty and make fun of you and say why you can get rattled really easily. And, that's your shot for the year. And so to me, I don't like open casting calls, and, it helps to find the diamond in the rough, the people that, are just naturally entertaining, naturally out there, naturally A++++ type A personality. The real people, like it's just like the people you can't even believe are real. Like I feel like that's what that's what open casting calls are suited for. They're not for the normal people. They're just not. Like if I were to go to open casting call, I wouldn't get cast. I just wouldn't. If most normal, I use the term loosely, most normal people aren't going to get cast in that way. And that's my opinion. And it's just, you put the control out of your hands and through the casting process, the majority of the control and decisions aren't in your hands. But the things you can control, you want to hang on to. You don't want to release that. Here's why I like sending an audition video versus going to open cast call. Number one, your control. Number two, you set the tone. So you set exactly what you want to say. You're not relying on them to ask you questions. You're not having to come up with creative ways to push your agenda or your story. You're in the complete control of the narrative. And an open casting call, you're not. And the other reason that I think it's really important to do send it and create your own video. When you create a video, you get to see yourself, okay? Like, for example, Jamie said, I look dull. Well, guess what? If you look dull in your audition video, when you go to open casting call, or if you go to the semifinals, you're probably going to look dull on camera there. So you learn through creating an audition video things to do to make yourself not look like, just average Joe. You learn those things by practicing them and getting better in it. And that practice and experience you gain by creating an awesome audition video, that carries over to when you're in the semifinals, when you're in the finals, because in all those big interviews, there's a camera on you because they want to see how you look on TV. They want to see how dynamic you look on video. They got to show it to people that aren't in the particular interview. So it's a great way to practice and prepare yourself. And that's something we don't focus on a lot. The added benefit outside of control is that you get better. You watch yourself. It's really uncomfortable to watch yourself on camera, in particular pitching yourself in a way that, you're saying how great you are, why you'd make a dynamic character. But to do that and watch it and get better at it and figure out, okay, this looks weird when I do this, but, really when I act with a lot of energy, it looks a lot better versus, not acting with a lot of energy. And so I want to get into, one of the tips I always give. If you look dull on camera and it doesn't, here's part one. If it looks dull on camera, it's not going to go well for you. So you have to not look dull on camera. How do you do that? You have to act 10 times more animated than you normally would. Like in my real life, I don't really talk like this. If you're watching the YouTube video, I just don't. Because if I were to just stand there and give you guys advice like this, how I probably normally would talk in a normal conversation, it's just you guys aren't going to be engaged. But that's not something that came natural. It's something that just happened because you develop over time and time again. And it's not something I'm great at, but if you go back and watch my audition videos, there's one of them on YouTube and there's one in the video boot camp. Like you'll see things that I do that aren't, that if you try yourself, they don't feel natural, but on camera, they look natural. So the first thing is you have to just continue to turn up the energy. Do your introduction. Hey, my name's Jamie. I'm a biotech, engineer student, and I love earthquakes. Okay, say it one time. Say it again with more energy. Say it again with more energy. Then watch that back and figure out where you need to get to so that you don't look dull on camera. The second thing you said, which I did like, you said, hey, it doesn't look natural. And, if it doesn't look natural, you're probably doing the right thing, because when you say doesn't look natural, I'm guessing it probably doesn't feel natural for you, which is a normal thing. Because like I said, it's not normal to sit here and look into a camera and tell people, why you're great or what's interesting about you. So hope that helps. The one thing I wanted to do is, Jamie, you brought up a couple of things about your elevator pitch, which I love. I love when people ask questions and they put their own personal twist on it, because I can help steer you and give you advice on what I would do if I were you in terms of how I'd pitch my story. So first thing you said is that you're in biotech, which is awesome. That's a really unique thing. And so that's got to be a highlight of your story. We're going to get to that in a second. You said you're a foster kid. That's also a highlight of your story, because that's going to have some emotional strings to it. Third thing you said is you're in retail sales, or you've been in retail sales for 10 years. I would throw that out the window. Why? Because there's a lot of other people that are applying that are in retail sales. Like that's just a very, I don't want to say abundant, or a very normal job. A lot of people work retail. So doesn't really give you any sort of edge. It doesn't give you any sort of weird or unique thing to remember about yourself. So I would toss that out the window. I wouldn't even talk about that. And third thing you say is you like earthquakes. That's like a cool little like one-off it's not a main story point, but it's something cool you can talk about in terms of why you like it. But I would focus on being in biotech and being a foster kid, because those are two really unique things. Like, I'm going to go out and limb and say there's probably no other biotech engineers or people in biotech that are also foster kids that are also applying for the same reality show as you. So it's really unique. You can talk about biotech in terms of a way that's like super nerdy and things that probably go over the casting person's head. And, but when you do that and you explain that and when you're passionate about it, people can feel that. And the second thing, I think, if you were to talk about your background as a foster kid, I imagine, you have some incredible stories, things that, people who aren't foster kids don't know anything about, and that have shaped, how you are, and may even impact how you would be on whatever reality show you're applying for. So I'd really focus on that and talk about both the great things and bad things about being a foster kid, and the great things and bad things about being in biotech. What are like the stereotypes that come with that? How do you, when you talk about biotech, do most people turn blank because they don't know what you're talking about? And it's just, there's so many different things you can talk about, Jamie. I hope that helps to narrow your focus, and I would draw a ton of stories out of those two main points, and then I would build a few more weird things. I think that's like the base, the basement, the crux, the foundation of your story, and you build from there. And I think that'd be a really unique thing to pitch in casting. So with that being said, Jamie, thank you so much for asking your question and putting your unique story on top of it, so I could help you directly as well as the other people listening to this podcast. And if you have a question you want to have answered, go to howtogetonrealitytv.net/ask and submit your question through the voicemail app on the website. As a small thank you, Jamie, we're going to send you a free digital copy of my story, How a Normal Guy Got Cast on Reality TV, which tells my 4-year story and all the problems and things I had to do to get cast on reality TV. So, Jamie, thank you so much for asking the question. I hope it helped you, and I hope it helped narrow your focus and also steered you away from going to open casting call. All right, so that wraps up another episode of How to Get on Reality TV podcast. I hope this helped to give you guys some more insight as to why I always advise people to do a video over an open casting call, and also what makes a story more unique. Go through your head and your bullet points in your story and say, okay, hey, what of this is a lot of other people going to be talking about? What is on my list that a lot of other people can't talk about because it's not part of who they are? So I hope that helps. As a reminder, if you guys are looking for more help, go ahead and check out the guide that I wrote that takes you from A to Z, how to pick out your story. It advises you what to do, how to set up your audition video in a way to put yourself in a position to be successful. You can check that out by going to howtogetonrealitytv.net/guide. It has all the information you need there and how to access it. Once again, it's howtogetonrealitytv.net/guide. I will see you guys next Monday for the next podcast. Be sure to submit your questions if you haven't already. You guys know the address by now. Thank you guys so much for listening. It's great. I saw a couple new iTunes reviews came through, and I really appreciate, and I like reading those because it gives me insight as to what you guys like about the show and things that you would also like to change. But yeah, with that being said, best of luck in your casting journey, and I'll see you guys next Monday.